All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to County Executive Pittman's virtual press conference. This morning, the County Executive will share comments and updates on local media issues, community support grant awards, Plan 2040 stakeholder advisory committees, and other items. We'll take questions after. As a reminder, please put your name and media affiliation in the chat, and I'll call on folks for questions in that order. And again, if you are on camera, please shut your camera off and make sure that you're on mute. And only turn on your microphone and camera if you're asking a question. Thank you. And with that, Mr. County Executive.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We've been doing these press briefings every week throughout COVID, and we've always started out with a report on the pandemic. And this will be the first week that I want to talk about something else first, something that I actually think is a greater threat and of more importance in our community right now, which is the acquisition of our one local newspaper, the Capital Gazette, by Arundel Global Capital, and some actions that they've taken recently. And so what I've done is, because it's you're not always sure that the local paper will cover news about itself or about its ownership, is we're releasing a letter that I've written to Arundel Global Capital. It's an open letter, and I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll move on from there. So, open letter to Arundel Global Capital and all of its shareholders from me. I am the county executive of a place called Arundel County in the heart of Maryland, where the 580,000 residents get local news from a little newspaper that you just bought, the Capital Gazette. You got a gem. The paper started publishing as the Maryland Gazette in 1727. It's had a lot of owners and changed with the times, but it's always kept the people around here informed. We've heard that you are bad news, that you buy papers like ours, lay off staff, cut local news coverage, and squeeze out whatever profit you can. We worried when we heard that you were buying our paper's parent company, Tribune Publishing. We rejoiced when other investors stepped in with a competing offer, promising to preserve our paper and the Baltimore Sun under the oversight of a local nonprofit. But you won. That was a blow, but we're not ready to give up. You see, our newspaper got attacked 3 years ago by a guy with a shotgun who didn't like what the paper wrote about him. He killed 5 of our newspaper staff as they worked in their newsroom. Their names were Gerald Fishman, Rob Hyacin, John McNamara, Rebecca Smith, and Wendy Winters. They were our heroes, and they didn't deserve to die. On the day of the shooting, the surviving staff made a commitment. They refused to let that gunman shut down their newspaper. They kept working. A reporter named Chase Cook tweeted, "We are putting out a damn newspaper tomorrow." And they did. The newspaper arrived at our homes the next day and every single day since. Our newspaper's editor, Rick Hutzel, is also a hero. He's worked at the Capitol for 34 years, and his knowledge of this county and his drive to tell us the truth are extraordinary. His editorial board endorsed the guy I was running against in the last election, but even I recognize that he's the heart of our paper and that our paper is the heart of our community. We understand that you're a hedge fund and that your purpose is to make money for your investors. But your investors are people, right? Do they know what you're doing with their money? Do they know that your first move as owner was to pressure our paper's staff to leave by offering buyouts? Do they know that your buyout offer and the inherent threat of a pink slip has already forced both Rick Hutzel and Chase Cook to announce their departure, and that others are likely to follow? Your first strikes against us have left us staggering, but we are still standing You may not have noticed, but just as you take our journalists away, our paper is gearing up to cover the trial of the killer that attacked it. And just as you take our journalists away, we are unveiling a memorial. Let me tell you about that memorial that will be unveiled here next week. It was the brainchild of our caucus of African American leaders and is funded by the county, the city of Annapolis, and the state of Maryland. It has 5 pillars to honor our fallen heroes and a large wall with the words of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution inscribed on it. We're calling it the Guardians of the First Amendment Memorial. It will inspire this community and all of its visitors to act in defense of a free and independent press and to protect and preserve our local newspaper, whether the attacks come through the barrel of a gun or the greed of corporate raiders. It's not too late for you to join us. Our paper is profitable. It's why you fought so hard to prevent the Baltimore Sun and the Capital Gazette from being carved out of your acquisition. We can grow rather than die, allowing your investors to feel better about how Alden Global Capital invests their money. To move us forward on this new path, I invite you to join us on June 28th at 11 a.m. in Annapolis for the unveiling of our Guardians Memorial. After that event, you can meet with community leaders, elected officials, and Capital Gazette staff for a conversation about how we can protect local journalism as a career and the Capital Gazette as an institution. I look forward to your response and promise that your trip here will be informative and worthwhile. So that is about all I have to say about that, other than that I miss having Rick Hutzel on this call, intimidating me, making me worry about what he might say about what I say, holding me accountable. And I miss hearing Chase Cook's birds in the background when he asks questions. So moving on to more positive news, much better news, in fact. We have announced 52 nonprofit community-based organizations that will receive $1.8 million from the county. We call it the Community Support Grants. And we have Aaron Karpowitz here from Anne Arundel Community Development Services to answer questions about the process if you have them when we get through everything. But I just want to say that this pandemic has showed us the value of these nonprofit community-based groups, particularly in protecting our most vulnerable residents during the pandemic. And so we've increased funding significantly, more than doubled for this grant program this year, with the help of some of our federal funds. And the organizations are very worthy. They went through a rigorous process. We had an interagency review group from all of our health and human service agencies to look at the applications. It's funding substance abuse prevention, the arts, reentry, after-school programs, food distributions, list goes on and on. I think we have a release that has just gone out or will go out at the end of this, listing the recipients. So congratulations to all of these nonprofit organizations. Look forward to seeing the great work that you do in the coming year. Also want to announce really big news that the region plans that the county is required to do under Plan 2040 are going to be overseen by stakeholder advisory groups. And our Office of Plan and Zoning has posted online the application forms. We have these on screen here. A new web page under Long Range Planning and Office of Plan and Zoning called Region Plans, and it describes the process. The regions that go first, that will be starting as soon as we get these groups seated, are 2, 4, and 7. You can see on this map that we're talking about West County, near Laurel, Russet, Maryland City, Jessup, that area, as well as Region 4. That was Region 2. Region 4, which has Pasadena, Severna Park, and then the Annapolis Neck Peninsula is Region 7. So we are really serious about spreading the net broad and wide to find the right people to serve on this advisory committee. And we're going to be doing some pretty intense outreach through social media and otherwise to reach out to folks who may not have participated in this kind of activity before and learn about land use planning. So we have Steve Kai Ziegler and Christina Pompa here from Office of Plan and Zoning who can answer questions about that process. Then next we have Chris Phipps here from Department of Public Works to answer questions about a change in yard waste pickup. Some of you may have heard that at least one of our contractors who does yard waste and garbage pickup, curbside pickup, has been having staffing issues, and we've been working with them to resolve those. But yard waste in particular has been delayed in the areas that this one company serves, and that yard waste will be shifted to the yard waste pickup will be shifted to Wednesday. So it will not be in those areas the same day as other curbside pickup. So they've been notified. The areas impacted are Glen Burnie, parts of Glen Burnie, Pasadena, Severna Park, Odenton, Laurel, Maryland City, and Gambrills. And there's a website you can see on the screen. You can actually go. You can get to this from the homepage of the county website, where you can type in your address and find out whether you're impacted by this, in case you haven't gotten your own notification. So I just want to thank Public Works for dealing with what's most important to this government and to all governments is providing good services to the residents. And when a contractor can't meet the obligations of its contract, that we step up and we brought in another contractor to fill the gap until they can. So working hard on that. And then our Office of Emergency Management reminded me, Preeti Emmerich is here to answer questions, that it is hurricane season. Hurricane season really runs from June 1st through November. And I encourage people to go online and sign up for the Civic Ready alert system so that they'll be notified of any hurricanes that are coming and information about how to respond and protect your family. Go to alertandarundel.civicready.com to sign up for that. And then finally, upcoming, we have every week, I think I've been reminding folks about the land preservation, parks and recreation planning process that Rec and Parks is doing. You can get information about that on Rec and Parks, the county website. District 5's town hall tonight at 6:30, getting input to find out what folks in that district think we should be investing in the future for our Parks and Rec. And then, of course, Monday, I mentioned already in the letter, is the unveiling of the Memorial for Guardians of the First Amendment in Annapolis. That's at 11 o'clock. And finally, wrap it up with COVID update. I'll turn it over to Dr. Kalyana Raman, who will talk about new business incentive program to engage more businesses in helping us get folks vaccinated. So over to you, Dr. K.
Thank you, County Executive. So with COVID, I'll start with the data. We're seeing we're in a very good position. Our hospitalizations are less than 10 across the county. Our case rate is at 1. Our percent positivity is at 1%. These are numbers that honestly are just fantastic. And they're because of the vaccines. We have seen that 56% of the population has had at least one dose, and that amounts to 72% of adults, and 50% of the population is fully vaccinated. It's really important to continue to get vaccinated. There's a lot of talk about the Delta variant. That variant is easier to transmit and can cause greater severity of disease. It's less than 10% of cases statewide, but it is growing. And we see in other countries, particularly the UK, that the Delta variant can grow because there's still a good number of people who are unvaccinated. It's why we are going to continue to push our vaccinations. They're protecting people and they're also decreasing transmission. And so we're really encouraging everybody. We have vaccines waiting for you if you want one, and you should get one. We've got them at our sites. You can get them from your doctor, community locations. Last week we were in libraries, food pantries, schools, churches. We think it's really important to be out in the community doing these vaccines. And that's why we're launching our vaccine business incentive program. Small businesses are part of the fabric of our communities, and they're going to help us get vaccines into more arms. This program incentives for businesses to defray costs and also provide incentives to their customers. So applications are open right now. We strongly encourage small businesses to apply. That way we can set up a vaccination program with you and provide funding to these small businesses to make it easier for them to do this. We know they've been hit hard during COVID. We want to do everything we can to keep them operating in their communities. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jeff, I believe.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Kalyanaraman. And with that, we'll start taking questions. As a reminder, please put your name and media affiliation in the chat, and I'll call on folks in that order. Danielle Ohl, the Capital.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much. I have a couple questions. First one is about, I believe it was a grant program to 52 nonprofits. Can you just clarify, it's $1.8 million that's going to be divvied up among those groups? And then I have another question, but I'll wait for the answer.
Yeah, I bet they wish they were getting 1.8 million each. Yes, 1.8 divvied up.
Gotcha. And is that ARPA funding?
We are, that's helping us to increase the total, but yeah.
Okay, great. And Mr. County Executive, the letter that you read to Alden Global Capital, are you sending that letter to the hedge fund leadership, or?
Yeah, that has just been sent and yeah, emailed to them. So they should have it to Heath Freeman and Randall Smith there.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Next up, Rob Lang, WBAL.
Hi, good morning. Mr. County Executive, I'll ask this question with a certain bias because, yes, I have friends at the Capital Gazette, Rick Hutzel among them, Chase Cook among them. Your letter, what do you think that's going to accomplish given Alden's record? And I'll have a follow-up.
Well, I think that when you have a hedge fund that is acting in a way that does not serve the public interest, they're acting within the law. So we can't use the law, but public opinion can matter, and they care what their investors think. And so part of what I hope to accomplish is to shine a light on what's going on here. And because they own both the Baltimore Sun and the Capital, we can't be confident that the local papers will cover it. So I want that message to go out far and wide in the media for people to know what is happening to this newspaper, this jewel of a newspaper that people know about at this moment. And I hope it not only helps to get Alden to think twice about the future of this paper and to work to build it. They certainly have the resources to be able to do that, but that it gets others both in communities and in the industry to think about the value of local papers, and that when you cut expenses drastically and you lay off staff and you reduce the amount of coverage, the quality, and in some cases, as they have done, you basically leave the paper as some sort of an online operation, that you're going to get blowback, that it has a real impact on communities, that we value these institutions. It makes our democracy work better. It makes our dialogue more civil when we get professional journalists telling news, that we don't just rely on things that are posted on social media. They have outstanding journalists. They're usually young, they're not paid very well, and they often get trained in our newspaper and then go on to others. But I've been really impressed by the quality of the coverage, and I know I don't want to lose it, and I think many others in this community feel the same way.
Follow-up question with respect to the memorial on Monday. This is a permanent memorial. People will see it every day when they walk by it. What do you want them to think about?
I want them to think about the value of an independent, free press and the value of journalism and the value of local journalism. And hopefully young people will want to enter the field. Hopefully investors will want to own these institutions, and maybe something good will come of it. Maybe somebody out there will step up, or a group of people will step up and either save this paper or create something that can take its place that does the same thing.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, Hope Khan, the Capital.
Hi, good morning. Could you please address the damage from last night's storm?
Do we have anybody who's got probably Preeti who might have some information about that?
Yes, hello, good morning. We're still investigating the damage that occurred from last night's storm, especially with the power outages. I can follow up with you on more specifics.
So
Okay, thank you.
Preeti Emmerich, Office of Emergency Management.
Yes, thank you, sorry.
All right, I saw Dominique just withdrew her question. Anybody else questions, please put your name and media affiliation in the chat. Melody Simmons, Business Journal.
Hi, Stuart. Good morning. Thank you for taking this this call. I'm wondering if you can just address the impact of your words, and in the past, Alden Capital has not really been very responsive to local pleas to try to help preserve news gathering. There is even some criticism that they just don't care. And so I just wanted to, right here, we have the memorial being dedicated next week. You have your very emotional letter today. Where can this go, and what kind of future could take place if they decide not to do anything? Where will this leave the county?
If they won't cooperate, and if they choose to shrink, I guess would be a word, our newspaper to the point that it doesn't have the value that it historically has, the alternative is for others in this community to step up and create an alternative. I think if we don't speak out in this moment, we're giving up something that we value too easily. And I think this community has to speak up, and others across this country have to do the same, who value democracy and value the sense of community that local papers create. And so I don't know that it's going to change Alden Global Capital's mind. I think there's a possibility that with enough pressure that they take a second look, but either way, I don't think we have any option but to speak out and to let it be known what we value.
It's so unusual for the leader of a county, an elected official, to go to bat for the press that covers them. So talk a little bit about that, predicament.
Well, it's really not a question of whether you like or dislike that the newspaper. We tend to like them when they're saying nice things about us, and not so much when they're not. But what I believe that nobody else is doing it. So somebody has to stand up and speak. And I understand that, and I've in fact been told by people who've read a draft of this letter that this could make life difficult for our administration in the coming years if somehow the Capital and Alden Global decide that they want to punish us for what we've said. So I think that's one reason that you don't often hear. Maybe you do. Sometimes politicians do speak out against certain press outlets, but I'm not speaking out against the Capital newspaper. I'm pleading with Alden Global Capital to preserve and protect this paper that they now own. And I have to do it because nobody else is.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Kate Amara, WBAL.
Hi, Mr. County Executive. I'd like to, aside from the letter that you read from, and obviously you have, it's an emotional time for you, an emotional subject, but I'd also like to get your thoughts as the leader of the county, as a resident of the county, and as a dad about this trial getting underway after 3 years of delay. And if you are comfortable and willing, how are you talking to your kids about it? I know they're young, they're school age, and I think the way you're talking about it may be helpful to other parents in Anne Arundel County. Thanks.
Well, I mean, the trial brings back the trauma, particularly for the people closest to it. And for the rest of the community, I think while it reminds people what happened, and there's a certain sadness about that, it also reminds people that we do have a system to hold people accountable and to bring justice when things like this happen. And so there's a certain amount of closure to that I think is good for people and reminds people that when horrible things happen, you don't get away with it. And you know, this person will be brought to justice. And so I think that's something that's, we all wish it happened more quickly, but at least it's happening.
All right, Brooks Dubose, Capital.
Thank you.
Thank you. A question for the county executive. I know that your administration has put a whole lot of money towards rental assistance and helping people who are kind of struggling paying their rent. But just in the face of there being less than a month until the eviction moratorium goes away, is there anything else that the county can do beyond money that they can do to kind of help out with what could potentially be a pretty significant wave of people who are being taken to court because they can't pay their rent, even though there is money available?
Yeah, and I might ask Aaron Karpowitz, if you have anything to add to this, feel free to. We have got an amazing team over at Arundel Community Development Services doing eviction prevention work, and it's a slow process if it's done right. And so while we have federal funds that are being used to pay landlords for back rent, it takes time. And so we're in a situation when the moratorium lifts where people could be evicted even though they have been paying, and then others will never get paid. Landlords will never get paid if they evict, because we're not gonna provide that assistance to them if they don't sign an agreement to keep people in their apartment. So we need time to be able to do the right thing, which is the right thing for both the tenants and the landlords, which is to work out these payment agreements and strategically use the funds that are available. So it's not a wise thing to end a moratorium. And we hope that the courts will be really, really, really vigilant about, we have these eviction orders that could take effect if they don't go back and look at what rent has been paid. Is Aaron, would you like to add anything to that? Because you're closer.
Yeah, I think you summed that up very nicely, Mr. County Executive. The only thing I would add is that we do have a comprehensive legal strategy on hand to help anybody that may be facing imminent eviction. We have an in-house counsel who's there to help do intake. And then we are also partnering with community legal services, which we've been able to, thanks to the county and their support with funding, we've been able to bring on full-time legal staff to help specifically clients in Anne Arundel County, our renters who might be facing eviction. So it's really a multi-pronged approach with the rental assistance and working with landlords, making sure that they know they can't get any of this funding if they evict. The tenant has to be residing in the home, but then we're also working with legal counsel to work this through the court system as well if people are facing eviction notices.
So if either tenants or landlords want to contact you, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. Tenants and landlords, the best way is to go on our website. We have an intake form there, which is www.acdsinc.org, and I'll put that in the chat in a moment. That's the best way. We take people on a first come, first served basis through our intake process. But if somebody does have a sheriff's notice for an eviction, there's also a number on our website that folks can call so that we can help triage them and get them to legal services. And there's also a really comprehensive page on our website for landlords so that if they have any questions, we have a frequently asked questions section and a way to contact us to work with our in-house attorney on those landlord agreements.
Thank you. And just one follow-up. Has the city considered, or is it possible to provide direct assistance to housing authorities, either the county or the city or both?
So we are working with our housing commission to provide some rental assistance. The housing commission, their landlords, or I'm sorry, their tenants haven't been as affected as much as we're seeing out in the units that aren't already publicly assisted, but we are working with them to provide some of the rental assistance. And I need to get back to you on the city of Annapolis, but we do have a program where we're working with civil justice to help our housing authority of Annapolis city residents. And we're going through, it's a comprehensive case management program where those tenants who might be struggling to pay their rent can come and get assistance and financial counseling, and they may be eligible for some financial assistance as well down the road.
Thank you. And sorry, one final one for the county executive. Have you made any pleas to Governor Hogan, similar to County Executive Elric in Montgomery County, about potentially extending the moratorium? Elric said that it was a bad idea to basically end it on August 15th when there is still really, to your point, it's quite a long process in getting money out to people.
Yes, we've sent letters. They've sent letters. We've sent letters together previously, and definitely made that argument. On the previous question about the housing authorities, just keep in mind we have two of them in the county. There's the Anne Arundel, and then there's also the Annapolis Housing Authority, and the numbers have been much higher of folks who hadn't paid rent in Annapolis than in Anne Arundel. And so we'd send in a team specifically to work with the residents of the Annapolis Housing Authority with cooperation from the Annapolis Housing Authority to work with them. But we do that as well with the county, but the payment rate is much higher at the county housing authority. People are paying, keeping up better.
Thank you. And you haven't heard from Hogan from those letters? No response from those?
No.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. That's a wrap for this week. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you.